His famous
Bond. James Bond.
marked the beginning of the Bondiana cult. He tamed snakes and dragons, searched for treasures, unraveled the secrets of an ancient monastery, and of course, fell in love with the most beautiful women. A true Scotsman, Sir Sean Connery earned his fame playing Agent 007, but fortunately, how did he feel about his iconic character? What incident on the set almost cost him his life? And how did the actor's struggle for the independence of his native Scotland end? You will learn about this and more in today's video. Get comfortable. This is the Biographer channel, and we are starting. Thomas Sean Connery was born on August 25, 1930 in Edinburgh, Scotland. He was named after his paternal grandfather, and in the family he was called Thomas. Two of his paternal great-grandfathers immigrated to Scotland from Wexford, Ireland in the mid-19th century, and his great-grandfather James Connery was an Irish traveler. Other members of his family were of Scottish descent. His father, Joseph Connery, was a Roman Catholic and worked as a factory worker and truck driver. Mother, Euphemia McBain Effie McLean, was raised Protestant and worked as a cleaning lady. The couple also had a younger son, Neil. The Connery family lived very poor. Little Thomas didn't even have his own bed, so he slept in the bottom drawer of the wardrobe in his parents' bedroom. Their home was near a rubber factory and several breweries on Fountainbridge Street, the so-called Street of 1,000 Smells. The head of the family often spent his eager earnings on drinking and gambling, so Thomas and his younger brother Neil had to run around and twill pants and take care of the food themselves. Sean would disappear for days on the street. He collected coal that fell from the broken carts of coal miners and sold it in the market, and with the earned money, he bought groceries. Thomas was 9 years old when the war started. In 1940, no one went to school anymore. He recalled later, school journals were not kept. No one mentioned attendance. I think our entire generation was left without education. All schools in Edinburgh were closed, and children were taught grammar and mathematics by compassionate old women and priests. They taught where possible, in abandoned apartments, in public squares if the weather was warm, and in the parish church. Sean regularly attended classes, but one day he came back in tears. Because of his old and torn shoes, his classmates made fun of him. The boy, sobbing, muttered that he would never go to classes, and his mother unexpectedly supported him, believing that part-time work for her son would be more useful than books. The father decided that both activities would be useful for the boy, so Thomas delivered milk in the morning and then ran to study. This part-time work affected academic performance. The boy studied poorly. At the same time, Thomas fought well and became famous as a bully. By his own words, his childhood was harsh. When the boy was 9, his mother caught him smoking and said, "Don't let your father find out, because if he does, he'll beat you so hard he'll break your bottom." From the moment Thomas started working, he had to pay his share of the rent. Do the housework. If you didn't make your bed, you wouldn't sleep on it. Those were the rules in his own house. At the same time, the actor did not blame his parents and believed that this upbringing gave him a chance to find his own way in life. "I didn't ask for advice and I didn't get it. I had to make it on my own or not at all." This sort of motivation is the great thing that's lacking in present-day society, Connery said. Soon his father went to work in Glasgow at the Rolls-Royce factory, and he was seen at home only on weekends, and even then, irregularly. Thomas got up at dawn and walked the morning streets to work. At first he delivered milk, then fresh newspapers, and in the evening he played football with his peers until he was exhausted. At night he dreamed of cows, doorknobs, and the countless steps to climb to deliver a bottle of fresh milk to a customer. After his father was fired from his job, Thomas remained the main breadwinner of the family. He dropped out of school for good and focused on making money. At 13, the future actor was forced to go to a dairy where he already worked full-time. Earnings were very small, food was issued by cards, and the teenager's only dream was to eat. Hunger forced the boy to accept various part-time jobs. He even once worked in a workshop where coffins were made. One day the work got delayed. It was late, and Thomas decided to spend the night in one of the freshly made products. So I laid down in the coffin I had just polished, as I could find nothing more suitable, and in the morning, I couldn't figure out why I was in the coffin. He had an Irish childhood friend named Seamus. When they were together, those who knew them both referred to Connery by his middle name, Sean, emphasizing the alliteration of the two names. Since then, Thomas preferred to use his middle name. And which actor's name do you like more? Write to us in the comments. It'll be interesting to hear your opinion. At the age of 16, he became a sailor in the Royal Navy. There, the young man got 2 tattoos that represented the 2 most important things in his life: family and Scotland. One tattoo read Mom and Dad, and the other Scotland Forever. Many years later, reporters asked the actor why it occurred to him to join the sailors, to which Connery cheerfully answered, "You guys don't understand anything. This was a great deal. Think, just think. Free food, free uniform, reliable income. It was so difficult to find a job then, and of course the sea, romance. Besides, I wanted to see the world." But the future star did not manage to travel a lot. After 4 years of service, Connery was fired, according to official data, due to a gastric ulcer. But apparently the reason was not in this, because the guy with weak health started working as a loader in the port and at the same time engaged in bodybuilding. From 1951, he trained intensively with Ellington, a former gym instructor in the British Army. And while the star's official website lists him as third in the 1950 Mr. Universe contest, most sources list him as third in the 1953 junior category. Due to his excellent physique, Connery was often invited to the Edinburgh College of Art as a model. He earned 15 shillings an hour in the modeling business. Artist Richard DeMarco, a student at the time who made several of Connery's early paintings, described him as very straight, slightly shy, too beautiful for words, a virtual Adonis. Recalling those years, Connery honestly admitted that he had no rejection from women at that time. For a long time, it was difficult for Connery to find a permanent job. He had to work as a bricklayer, a furniture polisher, a lifeguard in Portobello, a bouncer in a bar, and a printer. The mother taught him to work a lot and hard and instilled in her son respect for any job so that it would bring at least some money. But could he have imagined where fate would lead him? "If I were to go back and think of how far I've come," Connery said, "how much fame one's had, how much money one's made, how much traveling one's done, one would think, well, it wouldn't be physically possible, considering where I've come from." It was while working at the printing press that Thomas saw an advertisement for recruitment to the Corps de Ballet. The actor recalled, "I was given a partner and asked to lift her up. I picked her up in my outstretched arms like a straw doll. They laughed and told me to throw her up. I did, and even caught her. I must have thrown her too high. They all gasped, but they took me." Connery performed in the London Corps de Ballet for 3 months and then began to travel around the country. Connery was also a keen footballer and played for Bonnyrigg Rose in his youth. During one of the football matches against the local team, Matt Busby, the manager of Manchester United, was so impressed by the young man's physical abilities that immediately after the game he offered him a contract worth £25 per week. It was a lot of money at the time. Connery said he was tempted to agree, but after talking to one of the actors in his troupe, he changed his mind. "I realized that a top-class footballer could be over the hill by the age of 30, and I was already 23. I decided to become an actor, and it turned out to be one of my more intelligent moves." Connery gave up his career as a football player, signed a contract with the musical theater for another year, and began studying hard. "I wanted something that would last, and because it was fun," he explained his decision. In an effort to supplement his earnings, Connery helped backstage at the Theatre Royal in late 1951. During a bodybuilding competition held in London in 1953, one of the contestants mentioned the auditions for the musical South Pacific. There, Connery got a small role as one of the boys in the CB's choir. When the tour reached Edinburgh, he was given the role of C. Corporal Hamilton Steeves, and his salary increased from £12 to £14 a week. The following year, Connery was promoted to the lead role in the musical, Lieutenant Buzz Adams. At that time, the young man was dating the Jewish, dark-haired beauty with a ballerina's figure, Carol Sopel, but her parents did not approve of her daughter's choice and warned the young man to stay away from her. Then he met with Julie Hamilton, daughter of documentary filmmaker and feminist Jill Craigie. Given Connery's rough appearance, Hamilton initially considered him a terrible person and was not attracted to him at all. However, seeing a young man in a kilt, she admitted that it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen in her life. It was rumored that while in Edinburgh, Sean was targeted by a local gang that was considered one of the most violent in the city. They first approached him in a pool hall where he prevented them from stealing his jacket, and later 6 members of the gang followed him onto the balcony. There, Connery single-handedly dealt with all the attackers, and since then the gang treated him with respect, calling him Strict Man. In 1954, the future star became interested in the theater for a reason. He was inspired to become an actor by the American actor Robert Henderson, who advised him to read more and borrowed copies of Ibsen's works, Hedda Gabler, The Wild Duck, and When We Dead Awaken to fill the gaps in his education. Connery also read a lot of classics, studied at the Stanislavski system, visited theater performances, museums, and talked with artists. Meetings with actors opened up a vast and unknown world to him. They knew so much. I had to buy a dictionary and learn new words. Gradually, I began to understand what they meant. I developed a certain cycle. First, I listened to conversations about a certain play in theater circles, then I read it, and then I went to see the production. The young actor also worked hard to overcome diction defects, lisp, and Scottish pronunciation. For this, he bought a tape recorder and started listening to tapes with the correct pronunciation. Thanks to Henderson, Connery got several roles at the Maida Vale Theatre in London. Having appeared on stage in a few weeks thanks to hard work on himself, he could already speak like a professional actor. Although the man got several extra roles, he struggled to make ends meet and was made to accept part-time work as a babysitter for journalist Peter Noble and his actress wife Marianne, earning him 10 shillings a night. One evening at Noble's house, he met Hollywood actress Shelley Winters, who described Connery as one of the tallest and most charming and masculine Scotsmen she had ever seen. Later, she spent many evenings with the Connery brothers over a glass of beer. The next work of the young actor in the theater was a role in Agatha Christie's play Witness for the Prosecution, during which he met and became friends with his countryman, Scottish actor Ian Bannon. This performance was followed by Point of Departure and A Witch in Time at Kew, as well as the role of Pentheus in The Bacchae, which he played at the Oxford Theatre. While working on Eugene O'Neill's play Anna Christie, Connery met 24-year-old actress Diane Cilento. Diane was then married to the Italian writer Andrea Volpi and did not pay attention to Sean. But Connery wouldn't be Connery if he didn't get her affection. The woman got bored with her husband, while with her colleague on the set, everything was the opposite, stormy and passionate. He proposed to his beloved several times, but always received a categorical refusal. However, the actor was not used to giving up and was sure that one day he would hear her cherished yes. Meanwhile, Connery continued to build a career. He had a brief role as a boxer in the television series The Square Ring before being noticed by Canadian director Alvin Rakoff, who cast him in The Condemned, which was filmed in Doverkent. In 1956, Connery appeared in the theater production of Epitaph and played a minor role as the hooligan Joe Braisted in the Ladies of the Manor episode of the BBC police series Dixon of Dock Green. That was followed by small television roles in Sailor of Fortune and a special episode of the Jack Benny program filmed in Europe. In early 1957, Connery hired agent Richard Hatton, who got him his first film role. The actor played Spike, a speech-impaired juvenile gangster in Montgomery Tully's crime film No Road Back, alongside Skip Homier, Paul Carpenter, Patricia Dainton, and Norman Wooland. In the same year, the young actor was offered the main role in the BBC television series Requiem for a Heavyweight, which also starred Warren Mitchell and Jaclyn Hill. He then played lonely truck driver Johnny Yates in Cy Enfield's Hell Drivers, appeared in Terrence Young's critically acclaimed action film Action of the Tiger, and had a supporting role as a welder in Gerald Thomas's thriller Time Lock. At the same time, the actor finally changed the name Thomas to a more original one, Sean, which he liked since he was a teenager. The way up the career ladder was difficult and slow for the young actor, but even then he showed stubbornness, which later became his well-known feature. If he did not like the role, he refused it, even if there was a critical lack of money. The actor's first success came after appearing in the melodrama Another Time, Another Place, where Connery played one of the main characters, a charismatic British reporter named Mark Trevor.
I was born in a village called St. Giles. It's in Cornwall, and I grew up there, that's all.
That's only the beginning. Tell me about it.
I'd rather...
Please, Mark. Tell me.
During the shooting, something unexpected happened. Gangster Johnny Stompanato, the aggressive boyfriend of one of the actresses, Lana Turner, believed she was having an affair with Sean. The actors did spend a lot of time together, visiting West End shows and London restaurants, but they did not have a romantic relationship. One day, Stompanato burst onto the set and pointed a gun at Connery, but Sean disarmed him and knocked him onto his back. Stompanato was banned from the studio, and 2 police officers from Scotland Yard advised the jealous man to leave the country. They escorted him to the airport where he boarded a plane and returned to the United States. Connery later said he had to hide for a while after receiving threats from people associated with Stompanato's boss, Mickey Cohen. The movie title, Another Time, Another Place, later determined the geography of the actor's filming. The entire world map became a huge filming set for Connery, and traveling brought him a lot of joy. "I am always ready to pack a suitcase and go wherever my eyes could see. I would like to live on a boat or a small ship, scurrying from port to port, traveling through the restless waves." In 1959, Connery got the main role in the film Darby O'Gill and the Little People, directed by Robert Stevenson. The film tells about the cunning Irishman Michael McBride and his struggle with leprechauns. Upon the film's initial release, a critic from the New York Times praised the cast, with the exception of Connery, whom he described as merely tall, dark, and handsome, and considered the film an overpoweringly charming concoction of standard Gaelic stories, fantasy, and romance.
"Tell me, Katie, do you think I'm a good lad?"
Connery also played Alexander the Great in the television production of Adventure Story by Rudolph Cartier, and Alexei Vronsky in Anna Karenina for the BBC in 1961. In the same year, he appeared as Macbeth in a television adaptation of Shakespeare's play of the same name with Australian actress Zoe Caldwell, who played Lady Macbeth. And although these roles did not bring great profits, Connery gradually made his way to world recognition. The real breakthrough in Connery's film career came after his role as British secret agent James Bond. And although the actor was not thrilled about shooting in this series of films, he understood that if everything worked out, his career would go up significantly, and he did not miss again. Connery gave James Bond not only his face and figure, he endowed the screen character with his own natural charm, courage, and grace. Who knows? Maybe if the producers hadn't found such a successful performer for the first Bond movie, maybe there wouldn't have been a continuation of Bondiana, and there wouldn't have been such a large number of fans of the franchise. After all, to a considerable extent, the popularity of the screen agent was caused by the importance of the main actor. Everything was serious in Fleming's books, and this is a drawback. In the first Bond film, I embellished this character with humor. At that time, I did not expect that this ball would take so long to unravel. And I think that the thing is precisely that I introduced irony into the films. But why exactly did the producers choose this actor to perform as James Bond? They say that the wife of producer Albert Broccoli, Dana, helped Sean a lot in this. After a long and not very successful search, Albert came across the film Darby O'Gill and the Little People, in which Sean played. He asked his wife's opinion, and after watching it, she said that the actor was simply fabulous. He was just perfect. He had star material right there, the woman recalled later. But the wayward actor risked not getting this role. For the first meeting with the producers, 32-year-old Sean showed up in worn jeans and a brown t-shirt, although everyone, including his wife, advised him to wear a suit. In a half-dark room, in front of the two producers of the future project, Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Broccoli, Connery, desperately gesturing, laid out his terms. It was said that from the very first minutes of the negotiations, Sean asked how much the producers were going to pay him. It was incredible. When the actor was asked to audition, he flatly refused. "No auditions," he said. "You've watched my films and know what I'm capable of. I'm in front of you. Do you take me or not?" The producers looked at each other, confused. They were going to discuss some other issues, but Sean shook their hands firmly and left. Saltzman and Broccoli rushed to the window to watch this insolent person go. Sean walked down the street with a graceful, springy gait. He later admitted that he rehearsed his passage for several days, knowing that he would be watched. He moved, Saltzman recalled, like a jungle cat. When the future agent 007 disappeared around the corner, the producers had no doubts. They had found their James Bond. The next meetings were held in the presence of Albert Broccoli's wife, who called the actor very sexy. This finally dispelled doubts about their choice in favor of Sean. Moreover, the film creators could not invite a very famous actor. The budget for filming was small, only $1 million. By all indications, this should have been a passable project. But the author of the original source, Ian Fleming, was not happy with this choice and criticized the actor for the lack of sophistication and resemblance to a stuntman. However, after the successful premiere of Dr. No, Ian changed his mind. He was so impressed by Sean's performance that in his 1964 novel, You Only Live Twice, Fleming took into account Connery's Scottish roots and wrote that Bond's father was Scottish and originally from Glencoe, in the Scottish Highlands. Connery also did not immediately want to agree to the role of the charismatic agent 007. I immediately understood that everything was serious here and there would be a continuation of the first film. This was stated in the contract, but I wanted freedom. I didn't want to be bound by such contracts. He recalled later, There were rumors that the actor was persuaded by his new wife, Australian actress Diane Cilento, whom Sean secretly married on November 29, 1962 in Gibraltar. Terrence Young, the director of 3 Bond films, developed the screen image of the super agent. Even the choice of where to order clothes for Bond was up to him. It was Young who had the greatest influence on the formation of this cinematic image, bringing personal traits to it. He always preferred only the best restaurants and studios, according to eyewitnesses. His wardrobe was huge. He never thought about expenses. For example, during the filming of From Russia with Love, he generously fed the entire crew with lobsters. Therefore, the image of Agent 007 turned out to be the same as his inspiration. With an aristocratic note and gloss, Connery recognized Young's significant influence on the style of the franchise. For example, when shooting Dr. No, he helped him with the choice of costumes and taught him to play golf, which would later become the actor's true passion. Besides Young, Sean's transformation into an agent of 007 was also facilitated by his young wife. Having an education at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, good manners, and artistic taste, she taught Connery for hours and prepared him for the role of a representative of high society and an aristocrat. Tailor Anthony Sinclair made a special, dense, but at the same time elegant suit for filming. One of the most prestigious London firms, Turnbull & Asser, made a special shirt for the film with cuffs on double buttons instead of cuff links. The director insisted that Connery even sleep in his suit so that it was like a second skin for him. Furthermore, Agent 007 was distinguished by some, at first glance, small things in appearance. A handkerchief in his chest pocket, high-waisted pants, and a Rolex Submariner, a watch that Sean wore in all subsequent films. Dr. No brought Connery only £6,000, which was a very small income at the time. Much more significant were the popularity and admiration of the audience, received both by the actor and his character, extremely clever, charming and ironic, even to himself. Sean received thousands of letters from fans in the week after the Dr. No premiere. He became the main sex symbol of the movie, and his famous words became a catchphrase.
Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
In an interview with Playboy magazine, the actor admitted that he did not expect such success. I understood that it would be a very successful start for me, but I didn't expect such a powerful breakthrough, even if we take into account the presence of all the components of success in the film: sex, action, and so on. He reflected. Agent 007 was so liked by the audience that for 5 years Connery practically did not get out of the Bond tuxedo, continuing to talently portray the adventures of James Bond in the films From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, and You Only Live Twice. The plots of these films were different, but in all of them, James Bond had to deal with matters which the state security depended on. For example, in Goldfinger, he saved America's gold reserves, and in Dr. No, he destroyed scientists who were preparing an attack on England. In each film, with the help of beautiful assistants, he deftly neutralized all opponents, and he always won, as he was a graceful and elegant agent with a calm look. Of course, maintaining such an image was not easy for the actor. He did not show off his official relationship because his character was a womanizer. He had to pose for the newspapers, surrounded by beauties in the casino where he played according to a system allegedly secretly revealed to him by Ian Fleming. And only those close to him knew that he was not a gambler at all and did not like such establishments. Of course, there were some dangerous incidents during filming. For example, during the shooting of Thunderball in 1965, Connery's life was in danger in a scene with sharks in a pool. The actor was concerned about this dangerous scene when he read the script and insisted that there be a special plexiglass partition inside the pool. But the structure turned out to be unstable, and one of the sharks managed to pass through it. The actor had to be immediately pulled out of the pool. After that, in order to shoot the fight with the sharks, the animals were put to sleep, and the agent was attacked only by a dead shark, whose corpse was pulled with special ropes. All Bondiana films were low budget, and brought a lot of money to its creator and producer Saltzman and Broccoli. The sales of Ian Fleming's novels, which were adapted into films, exceeded 20 million copies, and the films about Agent 007 had no competition in the Western film market. Using the name of James Bond, you could sell any product. There were shirts, guns, suitcases, and alcoholic beverages under the Bond name, and they were in great demand. And one company even released a batch of children's pajamas called 003.5. Meanwhile, Connery's acting fees had long remained very modest. When he demanded a percentage of the rental, the studio management refused and invited another actor, George Lazenby. However, after the movie On Her Majesty's Secret Service filmed with him failed miserably, the producers began to persuade Connery to return to Bondiana. He was relentless, indignantly declaring, "I can't stand people who profit from my name." Then he was offered a huge fee at that time, $1,250,000. For the sake of such a solid sum, the actor agreed to take part in the next and last Bond film with his participation, called Diamonds Are Forever. The actor donated his earnings from the film to the organization of the Scottish Education Fund to help gifted children from poor families, such as the one from which he came. Similar cases were repeated many times in the actor's life. He gave most of his royalties, which became more substantial every year, to charitable purposes. He provided material support to the National Youth Theatre of Great Britain, the Scottish National Party, and the movement for Scottish independence. Connery disagreed with critics who took the Bond films too seriously. He believed that the movie has many purely comedic conventions and the plots were absurdly funny, and he also called his character grotesque. "I really don't like my hero who lacks basic humanity," Sean said. "Everything in him is calculated and he is ruthless. He creates an atmosphere full of hatred for humanity around himself. He is engaged in the investigation of crimes only because it allows him to constantly pull the trigger of his gun. Most often while playing Bond, I felt sick from having to choke, cut, stab, beat, torture all the time. After all, I've never even aimed at a rabbit in my life." His friend and colleague Michael Caine recalled that it was dangerous to even mention Bond in the actor's presence. Sean was very annoyed by the public's fixation on this one image. The dissatisfaction that Connery felt as an actor while playing James Bond was also felt on the screen, and the ironic tone in the actor's behavior from film to film appeared more and more clearly. The easier Agent 007 overcame incredible obstacles, the more parodic there was in Sean's performance style, and self-irony seemed to justify his participation in Bondiana.
Where the hell is White?
I haven't found out yet. Still haven't found out.
Having played Bond 6 times, Connery gained such worldwide fame that in 1972 he shared the Golden Globe Henrietta Award with Charles Bronson for World Film Favorite, Male. However, immediately after that, the actor resolutely announced that he was leaving the game. The last straw was a parody of Bond, the tape Operation 007, in which Sean's younger brother, Neil, starred. The actor almost broke off all kinds of relations with him, but in time realized that family was the most important thing. So he simply called the producer of this picture and explained that he would not allow the Connery family members to quarrel. Given that it was the actor's individualism and perseverance that connected him to his character, Sean was constantly compared to Bond, and there was a reason, no matter how much Connery wanted to get rid of the exhausting role. Like Bond, he was not ashamed to take a difficult path, set his own conditions, and did not consider it necessary to follow the rules if they did not suit him. This had been the case almost since the beginning of his career. He did not have a personal press agent. He collected cash checks on his own, which was considered unacceptable among actors. Furthermore, Connery did not really like Hollywood, especially its popular events, considering them a pleasant place to visit with a very seductive atmosphere where it is very easy to turn into a drunkard. The battle with Bond lasted more than 1 year. To get rid of the obsessive image of a super agent, Sean later agreed to risky roles. He played a bad cop, an intergalactic sheriff, a heroic Arab, even a Martian. There was, however, another extraordinary series of adventures of the world-famous agent of the British Secret Service. Never Say Never Again, filmed in 1983, but it was no longer such a huge success, and Connery joked that he agreed to star in it solely for the sake of its title. Never Say Never Again was a picture separate from the official movies because the next part of the Bond film with another actor, Roger Moore, was released in the same year. It was created by Irwin Kershner, who withdrew from cooperation with Eon Productions, the company that was responsible for the production of Bondiana for many years. As a result of the almost simultaneous release of 2 films with 2 Bonds, there was a real box office race in which the victory was won by the official picture called Octopussy. Never Say Never Again had production problems, conflicts between director and producer, financial difficulties, attempts by Fleming's descendants to stop filming, and Connery's broken wrist by fight choreographer Steven Seagal.
Hello again. I do owe you an explanation. My name is Bond, James Bond. May I offer you a drink?
Sean said that he was made to produce the film himself. At the end of filming, he was exhausted. He felt that for too long there had been a mismatch between the energy he put into making films and the quality of the results. There are periods of disenchantment, he explained, when you don't do much because you're not enthusiastic about the things you're offered, or because of a bad experience like Never Say Never. Because of the disenchantment of making that picture, I just didn't do anything for 2 years. The public reacted rather weakly to this picture, and Connery finally decided that James Bond was gone for good. While working on the 007 films, Connery managed to appear in 2 non-Bondian films, Alfred Hitchcock's Marnie and Sidney Lumet's The Hill, which film critic Peter Bradshaw considers 2 of the greatest films of the 1960s not related to Bond. In Marnie, Sean plays millionaire Mr. Rutland, who exposes his adventurer Marnie Edgar, played by Tippi Hedren. Hitchcock, who invited Connery to his project after watching the movie Dr. No, was very afraid that the Scotsman would not cope with the role of an American millionaire. As one of the director's assistants recalled, the problem was not so much the accent as the attitude. After all, Connery did not have an aristocratic background but was the son of a cleaner and a driver. However, despite this, the actor brilliantly coped with the role.
Before I was drafted into Rutland's, Mrs. Taylor, I had notions of being a zoologist. I still try to keep up with my field.
Zoos?
Instinctual behavior.
At the very beginning of the shooting process, Sean shocked many by asking to show him the entire script first. When Hitchcock's agent said that Cary Grant had never asked to see at least one of the director's scripts, Connery replied, "I'm not Cary Grant." It was also interesting that during the shooting of Marnie, Connery constantly helped the studio technicians. As gratitude for such work, the film's technical staff presented the actor with a gold watch worth $1,000. In 1965's The Hill, Connery wanted to play someone completely different to Bond. The actor's name alone was enough for the American director Sidney Lumet to receive a generous credit from the English producers. Sean also understood that talking about the fact that it was his status and Bondiana success that became decisive in the process of filming The Hill. It's a marvelous movie with lots of good actors in it, but it's the sort of film that might have been considered a non-commercial art house property without my name on it. This gave the producers financial freedom, a rein to make it, he admitted in an interview. Although Sean did not renounce his agent 007, in the drama The Hill, his character Joe Roberts still resembled Bond in some ways because he was also endowed with such character traits as courage, dexterity, and love of danger. But Joe, unlike 007, consciously came to the need to fight for justice and human dignity. Connery's play was full of drama and reached tragic heights in some episodes. For Sean, participation in this project was crucial because he found out what he really valued in art and in life.
You hear that? Then you're going to sit on your jackets and do nothing?
Although the film was not a financial success, critics were delighted with it. Debuting at the Cannes Film Festival, the film won the prize for the best screenplay. It was the first of 5 films Connery made with Lumet. The actor considered Sidney one of his favorite directors. The respect was mutual, and Lumet said about the star's performance in The Hill, "The thing that was apparent to me, and to most directors, was how much talent and ability it takes to play that kind of character who is based on charm and magnetism. It's the equivalent of high comedy, and he did it brilliantly." From the time when the actor felt his star status, he began to choose roles more and more meticulously, starting from the vision of like it or not like it, which did not always have a commercial benefit. He was rarely interested in loud projects and often worked for modest fees. At the same time, Sean tried to be very frugal in life, even being able to afford almost everything. After Bondiana's success, he bought a house with only a nanny on staff, land, and a used Jaguar. A needy childhood influenced the fact that it was difficult for him to part with money. Even today, when I have a big meal in a restaurant, I'm still conscious that the money I'm spending is equal to my dad's wages for a week. I just can't get over that. Even though I signed the bill and don't actually pay in cash, and I'm still the sort of fellow who hates to see a light left on in a room when no one is there. This actor's attitude to stardom was confirmed by his colleagues. "There is none of the star's self-indulgence about Sean," Sidney Lumet said. "He's not the type to get angry about the size of his trailer or any of that stuff. If you put him in a crew that's functioning well, there's no one more fun to make a movie with. You're kicking ass in the best sense." In the mid-1960s, Connery played golf with Scottish industrialist Ian Maxwell Stewart. This connection led to Connery making and presenting a 40-minute documentary about the plight of dock workers in 1967, The Bowler and the Bunnet. The film describes the Fairfield Experiment, a new approach to industrial relations implemented at the Fairfield Shipbuilding and Engineering Company, Glasgow, during the 1960s. This experiment was initiated by Stewart and supported by George Brown, the first secretary in Harold Wilson's cabinet in 1966. The company was threatened with closure, and Brown agreed to provide £1 million so that unions, management, and shareholders could try out new ways of industrial management. The movie was shown on television and not everyone liked it. However, it raised important social issues, and Connery was satisfied with the result of his work. This was followed by the English western Shalako, in which Sean starred with Brigitte Bardot, and the Soviet-Italian film The Red Tent, in the film about the rescue of the Italian expedition of Umberto Nobile, which had an accident in the Arctic. The actor played the role of the famous polar explorer and scientist Roald Amundsen, who went to look for the expedition and went missing. Sean said the following about his character. Amundsen is a romantic and a hero who discovered the South Pole and was the first to fly over the North Pole. In life, he was lonely, a little self-centered, but always fair and humane. These are his traits that appeal to me as an actor. The film was based on real historical facts. However, some details of actual events were unknown, so the film creators often had to make some stuff up. As for The Red Tent, the film was shot for a whole year and a half in Rome, Milan, Tallinn, Moscow, and the Arctic. And although it gave the actor the opportunity to travel, it failed at the box office. In 1970, the actor took part in Martin Ritt's film The Molly Maguires, a story about Irish miners in the 19th century who fought with Pennsylvania entrepreneurs for better working conditions. Sean so purposefully, so convincingly played the miners' leader that the audience did not forget for a moment why he and his comrades fought this difficult and exhausting struggle with the coal magnates and police. Critics praised Connery's acting in The Molly Maguires. For example, the newspaper People's World wrote that Sean Connery, who starred as James Bond but did not find creative satisfaction in this role, playing the leader of the miners, showed exceptional talent. Despite the success in his career and public recognition, in the star's personal life everything was not so rosy. He and Diane separated, but they were not going to officially divorce yet. Sean's son, Jason, who was 7 years old at the time, stayed with his mother. By the way, later, inspired by his father's success, the younger Connery will also become an actor, star in more than 30 films, and also play the creator of James Bond, Ian Fleming, and the television drama The Secret Life of Ian Fleming. Left alone, the handsome Scotsman found comfort in the arms of women, among whom were American actresses Diane Cannon, Jill St. John, Lana Wood, and Carol Mallory, as well as Polish model Magda Konopka. However, romances with them were temporary, and true love didn't come. Until one day, at one of the golf tournaments, Connery's favorite sport in Morocco, he met her, a French woman and artist, Michelle Roquebrune, who had previously been married twice and had 3 children. Telling about this meeting, Micheline admitted that she did not recognize a movie star in a handsome and tall man. I saw this man from the back, and of course, he had a fine physique. But that first day, I didn't know who he was or anything about him. Then I dreamed I saw this man. I was in his arms, and I thought, at last, peace. The next day, I went back to the tournament, and that was that. Roquebrune was a year older than Sean, spoke French and Spanish, and, like Connery, won her golf game at the event. Their initial bond was so strong that it transcended the normal means of communication established at the beginning of their relationship, as they could not even speak the same language. Connery once joked that because of the language barrier, they didn't have a chance to bore each other with conversation. That's why they got married very quickly. Micheline also repeatedly joked that they did not have any problems with communication because their body language spoke for them. In 1971, Sean was again lucky enough to work with Sidney Lumet, this time on the Anderson tapes. There, he portrayed the thief John Anderson who tried to rob the wealthy neighbors of his former lover. In one of the interviews, Connery mentioned, "When I read the script and decided to sign the contract, I got a call from an agent who said, 'Do you really like this crime story?' You know what I answered him? The hell I do. At least the public will finally stop associating me with Bond." Unfortunately, that did not happen. The film barely paid off its considerable budget and was not admired by critics. The only thing they appreciated was the bright and dynamic music of Quincy Jones. Collaboration with Lumet continued in the British crime neo-noir drama The Offense and the adaptation of Agatha Christie's famous novel Murder on the Orient Express. Both films were successful at the box office and received positive reviews from critics.
While giving premature birth to a stillborn baby, and the ultimate suicide of Colonel Armstrong in the face of multiple and intolerable bereavement.
But in the 1974 sci-fi film Zardoz, which was written, produced, and directed by John Boorman, however, despite such criticism, it became a cult classic after its release. In 1975, Connery finally divorced his first wife, Diane, and in May of the same year, again in Gibraltar, he again secretly remarried a second time, this time with Micheline Roqueburn. After the wedding, he sold a luxury apartment on London's Chelsea waterfront for £60,000 and bought a villa on the outskirts of a former fishing village near the Marbella Resort. He loved this place so much that in those years, 3 out of 4 planned films were shot not far from his Spanish home. In the same 1975, Sean appeared with Michael Caine in the screen adaptation of R. Kipling's work, The Man Who Would Be King, directed by John Huston. The actors played 2 former British soldiers who became kings in Kafiristan. Connery later repeatedly emphasized that Caine was one of his closest friends in the film industry, and both actors considered Huston's films their favorite. In 1976, Connery played Robin Hood in the film Robin and Marion, together with Audrey Hepburn, who got the role of the maid Marion. Film critic Roger Ebert, who liked Connery and Caine's performance in The Man Who Wanted to Be King, praised Connery's interaction with Hepburn, writing, "Connery and Hepburn seem to have arrived at a tacit understanding between themselves about their characters. They glow. They really do seem in love." While playing love on the screen, Sean remained faithful to his wife. Journalists at that time were constantly asking Micheline how she felt about her husband's stardom and whether she was jealous of his partners on the court, to which she replied, "He won't go anywhere. We've been together too long for me to make his life hell over little things. I know Sean better than anyone. I know which strings of his soul I can pull to get my way. We understand and trust each other. He listens to me and knows that I will never let him down." In the late 70s, Connery was quite in demand. He appeared as Khalil Abdul Mohsen in the political action thriller The Next Man, and portrayed Major General Roy Urquhart in the war film Bridge Too Far. In the British comedy The First Great Train Robbery by Michael Crichton, the actor played Edward Pierce, a charismatic member of London's high society and at the same time, a master thief. On the film set, Connery insisted that he would do all the stunts himself. The necessary scene was shot, and only later it was found out that because the driver did not have a speedometer, the train was traveling at twice the planned speed, 37 miles per h instead of 18. He also appeared in the sci-fi film Meteor and the adventure film Cuba. Although Sean remained a favorite of the public, none of these projects became iconic in the star's career. The beginning of the 80s also did not bring Connery significant roles. It seemed that during this period, the actor was followed either by a series of wrong decisions or very bold steps. In 1981, he appeared in Time Bandits and played Marshal William T. O'Neill in the sci-fi thriller Outland. Rumor has it that the actor's participation in Terry Gilliam's project Time Bandits turned out in a rather funny way. Michael Payton made a note in the script for the role of Agamemnon, which read, "Someone like Sean Connery, but cheaper." When the actor accidentally saw the script, he offered himself for this role. Connery also narrated the documentary Goal, which became the official film of the 1982 FIFA World Cup. And in the short documentary film Sean Connery's Edinburgh, directed by him, the actor took a personal tour of the great city that shaped him. The movie became a kind of a confession of great love for his incredible country. Later, the actor, in collaboration with Murray Greger, wrote the book Being a Scot, which once again demonstrated the star's great respect for his motherland. Nevertheless, Connery played his most prominent roles at an age when the creative career of many actors is going down. Many, but not the one who is rightfully considered the best among the actors of his generation. The late 80s and 90s became Sean's rethinking of his artistic vision. It was the most fruitful period of the actor's creativity because the movies that appeared that time caused a new wave of his popularity and brought the star many awards. In 1986, Sean appeared in Russell Mulcahy's fantasy action film Highlander in a supporting role as Ramirez, an Egyptian warrior aged 2,500 years. He became a mentor to Scotsman Conor MacLeod, played by Christopher Lambert, who died in battle in 1536 but was mysteriously resurrected. It was Ramirez who had to explain to Conor that he belonged to the cast of immortal warriors. Connery liked the script, but he called the director and said that unfortunately he did not have time to participate in the project due to the busy work on the film The Name of the Rose. Then Russell Mulcahy wrote a letter to Sean's agent assuring him that they would only need 1 week to shoot all the scenes with the actor. A few days later, Sean called the director and they made a bet that the shoot would take more than 7 days. As a result, Connery lost this bet, as the entire filming process of his scenes took exactly 1 week.
Why does the sun come up? Or are the stars just pinholes in the curtain of night? Who knows?
Paradoxically, the film failed at the box office. Against a budget of $16 million, it grossed only $12 million. However, this fact did not upset the producers at all, and in 1991 they shot the sequel, Highlander 2: The Quickening. But this picture was also a commercial failure. Instead, the TV series based on the film became a real sensation. The show lasted for 6 years and was shown in more than 40 countries. In 1986, Connery starred in the screen adaptation of Umberto Eco's novel The Name of the Rose. It's interesting that director Jean-Jacques Annaud initially did not want the Scotsman to play William Baskerville, while the actor, on the contrary, was very interested in the project. Many actors were considered for the role of a Franciscan monk: Robert De Niro and Jack Nicholson, Marlon Brando and Yves Montand, Paul Newman and Donald Sutherland, and yet in the end it went to Connery. Representatives of the Columbia Pictures Company were simply shocked to learn that Sean would play the main character. They even refused to finance the project. One of them sent Annaud the following message: "Is this a joke? Today, no one will go to see a medieval detective with an ex-agent 007 as the detective." As time has shown, the producers were wrong. With a budget of $17 million, the picture The Name of the Rose grossed more than $77 million. Connery's colleague on the set, Christian Slater, recalled how he was very nervous during filming about the first love scene in his life. Then his experienced colleague simply and humorlessly advised, "Boy, hold your breath." Also, while filming a drama in Italy, Sean learned that the National Youth Theatre in London had to close due to lack of maintenance funds. Connery immediately called the head of the troupe and offered help, and the next day transferred £50,000 to the theatre's account. The most terrible thing is that the director of the theatre died within a few days. Connery said, "He fought for so many years to save the theatre that in the end, his heart could not stand it." Of course, he was replaced by other people. My wife and I are often invited to this theatre for premieres. The Name of the Rose caused rejection in America and triumph in Europe. As for Connery, he won the first British Academy Award for his role. And also, according to many critics, it was this picture that revived the actor's career after a series of unsuccessful works.
Forgive me, Venerable Yorkie. My remarks were truly out of place.
The Name of the Rose was followed by the film The Untouchables by Brian De Palma, where Kevin Costner, Patricia Clarkson, Andy Garcia, and the incomparable Robert De Niro became Sean's colleagues on the set. The plot of this gangster drama was based on the struggle of the police against the king of the criminal world, Al Capone. As you know, he managed to be put in jail only as a person who avoided paying taxes. Connery, on his agent's advice, agreed to play Police Officer Malone because Gene Hackman refused the role, and did not lose because, as a result, Sean received an Oscar and the nomination Best Supporting Actor. By the way, to shoot in this picture, the Scotsman went through a special training course which included handling various types of weapons and physical tactics of police actions. And during the filming of the scene of Malone's murder, Sean did not expect that bloody firecrackers would explode with such force. After one of the first takes, Connery was taken to the hospital. Shards of glass and artificial blood got into his eye. However, as the actor later admitted, it was a right decision to make sacrifices for the Oscar's sake. The movie was warmly received by the public and was a box office success. Many critics praised Connery for his performance, including Roger Ebert, who wrote, "The best performance in the movie is Connery. He brings a human element to his character. He seems to have had an existence apart from the legend of the Untouchables, and when he's on screen, we can believe, briefly, that the Prohibition era was inhabited by people, not caricatures."
Mr. Ness, I wish I'd met you 10 years and 20 pounds ago. But I just think it got more important to me to stay alive.
After watching the unfinished working version of The Untouchables, Steven Spielberg decided to invite Connery to his new project, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. How far he got into the script and went after exploiting opportunities for character. His suggestions to George Lucas at the writing stage really gave the character and the picture a lot more complexity and value than it had in the original screenplay. The actor's next work was the 1990 American spy thriller The Hunt for Red October by John McTiernan. The film was an adaptation of Tom Clancy's 1984 best-selling novel with the same name. It became the first part of a series of films with the main character, Jack Ryan. The movie tells about the new Soviet nuclear submarine, Red October, capable of disrupting the fragile strategic balance between the USA and the USSR. And its Captain Ramius, played by Sean, decides to hand the submarine over to the Americans. Alec Baldwin, James Earl Jones, and Sam Neill became the star's partners on the set. Interestingly, the role of Captain Ramius was originally intended for Rip Torn. However, the actor, after reading the script, refused to participate in the project because, as he thought, the story was incredibly delusional. The second candidate for the role of the captain was Klaus Maria Brandjahr, a famous Austrian actor. He liked the script. He passed the audition and was about to sign the contract, but the day before, the actor broke his leg and was in the hospital for several weeks. Time was running out, and the producers turned to Connery. He recalled, "I read the script and thought, the story, of course, is interesting, but outside is the Reconstruction era. Do we need such a movie today?" Overall, it took the producers a long time to convince Sean to take on the role of Ramius. The film won an Oscar in the Best Sound Effects category and grossed more than $200 million at the global box office.
Comrades, our own fleet doesn't know our full potential.
They will do everything possible to test us, but they will only test their own embarrassment. We will leave our fleet behind.
We will pass through the American patrols, past their sonar nets, and lay off their largest city and listen to their rock and roll, while we conduct missile drills.
Connery had always been positive about awards and recognition. Once, he said, "I am not one of those actors who are ready to send a cleaning lady to receive an Oscar instead of me." He liked honors, and he liked to conquer the public. He was deeply touched by the recognition of his colleagues. In the same 1990, Sean turned 60 years old, and although many at that age think about retirement and a quiet life, he didn't even think of stopping there. Moreover, it was this year that he was recognized as the sexiest man in the world, to which Connery said ironically,
No, one is obviously flattered by it, but it's the sexiest man alive. There are very few sexy dead.
And indeed, the man remained in excellent physical shape, although he did not sit on strict diets and did not exhaust himself with physical exertion, though he was playing his favorite golf. Sean was aware of his attractiveness, even at a respectable age, but he treated the issue of beauty carefully. Never glossy hair and shining eyes for him to be attractive, he said in an interview in 1993. On the occasion of the beloved's 60th birthday, Michelin organized a real reception which was attended by Steven Spielberg, Clint Eastwood, Sylvester Stallone, Harrison Ford, and many other stars. When Sean opened the door and saw them all, he had a hard time controlling himself. He caught his breath, and tears welled up in his eyes. The birthday man was happy and touched. At the same time, there were no negative comments of colleagues about him. The actor's life credo was always, treat people the way you'd like to be treated. And if he did lose his temper, it was only on the golf course. Once he even broke his club, and all because he lost. And he did not like to lose, so he tried to bring something special to each film for the project's overall success. And he often managed to raise the movie's rating with this play. So the star's next box office hit was the American spy film by Fred Schapisi, The Russia House, where Sean's partner was Michelle Pfeiffer. The actor was praised for his portrayal of Barley, the head of a British publishing firm. Variety wrote that, as the flawed, unreliable publisher, Connery is in top form. Schapisi was impressed by working with Sean, especially emphasizing the power of the actor's charisma. Sean is one of those rare people whose qualities in life do translate onto the screen. He has fantastic energy, a bon homie. He has a largesse and a largeness which carries to an audience. There's a strength in him, a solidity. There's a rock there, you know? In 1991, Connery and Kevin Costner met again on the set of the film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, but this time the actor appeared only at the end of it in a cameo role as King Richard the Lionheart. And although his name was not in the credits, in 2 days of filming, Sean received $250,000, which he later donated to charity. The people of Edinburgh always highly valued their great countryman, and so in 1992 he received the Freedom of Edinburgh City Award, the local equivalent of an honorary citizen. However, in the same year, Connery's reputation as an exemplary family man was shaken, because it turned out that in the late 80s, the man had a small affair on the side. Singer Lindsay DePaul became the star's interest. In an interview, DePaul said that she regrets the relationship with the actor, which began in 1989. I didn't want to have an affair with him, and I tried to keep our relationship platonic, but he pursued me relentlessly. He wasn't my type at all, because I'm not usually attracted to the macho type. She said, in the end, I thought, why not? I didn't know his wife, so I didn't feel I was betraying her by having an affair. Their romance lasted only a few months, and Connery was the first to initiate the breakup after he failed to call Lindsay after a weekend together. Micheline did not comment on this situation in the press, deciding to keep the family. Despite all the difficulties and the scandal in the press, the couple did not break up. Despite problems in his personal life, Connery continued to act, and that same year appeared as Dr. Robert Campbell in John McTiernan's adventure drama Medicine Man. The movie tells about a talented scientist who's looking for a cure for cancer all his life, and for this he goes to the edge of the world, to the Amazon jungle. The company that finances his activities sends its representative, played by Lorraine Bracco, to Brazil to monitor the activities of the healer. It's interesting that the age difference between the main actors was 24 years, and later Sean played romantic relationships with much younger partners more than once, which caused some indignation and ridicule from journalists. By the way, Sean Connery's hairstyle in the film repeated the hairstyle of the composer Jerry Goldsmith, who wrote the music for the picture. Connery and the film creators decided that such a ponytail would be very suitable for the image of Robert Campbell. The film director John McTiernan originally wanted to shoot the movie Medicine Man in the evergreen tropical forests of Borneo, where he had filmed the fantastic action movie Predator 5 years earlier. But after making a reconnaissance expedition, he saw that everything had changed. Tropical forests were destroyed, and the previous places were no longer there. It was a vivid example of what his movie was about. McTiernan had to shoot in the jungles of Mexico.
Is that the road?
You see the river? No one can remember it ever being this low.
Although most critics disliked the film, it debuted at #1 on the US box office with $8.5 million. In the end, Medicine Man grossed $45.5 million, earning Disney $21 million, which was only half the budget. In Philip Kaufman's American crime drama Rising Sun, Sean played former police captain John Connor, and the mistakes I make that I haven't learned much. In Bruce Beresford's comedy A Good Man in Africa about political intrigue in Kinshasa, Connery appeared as Dr. Alex Murray. And although some critics still noted the actor's good performance in the film, even the director considered his creation a terrible mistake. Arnie Glimcher's American crime thriller Just Cause in 1995 also became another star's failure. Sean and Arnie were close friends, and Glimcher took over directing duties so they could work on the film together. For this role, Connery even turned down the role of King Edward I in the movie Braveheart. In 1995, Connery starred in Jerry Zucker's adventure film First Knight, based on the legends of King Arthur, his wife Guinevere, and the famous knight Lancelot. One of the few reasons why Connery took on this film in the fantasy genre was the candidacy of the director. He was supposed to be Terrence Young, who had already worked with Sean in the Bond films Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Thunderball. However, Young died just weeks before filming began. Connery, obviously, was very upset, but did not leave the project, especially since the amount of his fee was $14 million, because in the mid-90s, Connery was considered one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. Most of the filming took place in North Wales. By the way, the food in this region of the United Kingdom, according to the Scotsman, was simply disgusting. This was not Connery's first film based on the legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Back in 1984, the actor starred in the film Sword of the Valiant, The Legend of Sir Gawain, and the Green Knight. Interestingly, when Connery arrived on the first day of filming at the Stratfield Saye House, the home of the Dukes of Wellington, everyone felt his legendary charisma. The noisy film crew became devoutly silent, and Richard Gere, who did not have to come that day, specially arrived for a few hours to see his idol.
Brother to brother, yours in life and death.
Before the movie's release on the big screen, Sean and his wife celebrated the 25th anniversary of their first meeting. Micheline said that her husband was a real romantic. He often pinned love notes to her clothes in the wardrobe, which she found only weeks later. Over the years of filming, Connery had developed a certain professional reputation. He could sue the movie studio if he felt it was offering him an unfair deal. People from rich families are always consulted about finances, he explained. Others have to learn everything themselves. I wasn't always given good advice, so I sometimes made stupid decisions. But I have always appreciated what money gives. I never believed that only the poor could be good people. Once I felt poverty and hunger, and I don't want to experience it again. But Connery's nature did not always work in his favor and was not always comfortable for those around him. There are legends about his straightforwardness and wild temper. He was not the kind of man who would be friendly with a person to whom he did not feel inclined, and not the kind of person who would hide his displeasure. He's not the most tolerant person, the British playwright Tom Stoppard acknowledged. It's cliché, but he really doesn't suffer fools gladly. He's a capable person, and he expects others to be capable too. Most colleagues saw Sean's demanding nature as part of his professionalism. He's very bright, and he can't stand people who don't know their business as well as he knows his, Sidney Lumet once said about him. But Connery knew that being strict was not his main goal and not a way to influence others. I'm hard on myself, so probably by other people's yardsticks, I seem hard with them. Although the actor always knew his worth, he also believed that his time as an actor had passed for him. Connery ironically compared himself to the elder statesman, adding, "I look at what Richard Gere does, his sweat, the way he twirls, and I think I've been through it all. I've had enough." Now it's his turn. However, Sean's career did not stop at the first night. In 1996, he voiced the role of the dragon Draco in the movie Dragonheart. And even after a long struggle, the actor agreed to participate in Michael Bay's American adventure action film The Rock alongside Nicolas Cage. Many who watched the picture closely concluded that Sean played an aged James Bond. Connery was not very happy with the participation in this project, calling himself old-fashioned and preferring films with the relationships of the characters and their love experiences over films with an adventurous and fast-paced plot. The actor still agreed to play the main role, but set his own conditions. First, Connery insisted on hiring British screenwriters Dick Clement and Ian Lefren to rewrite his dialogues in true British spirit. And secondly, during filming on Alcatraz, Connery demanded to live there, right on this famous island, because he did not want to move between this place and San Francisco every day. A small house was built there, especially for the actor. Michael Bay, for whom it was only the second film, later admitted that he was very afraid of the first working day with Connery. "I had heard he was notoriously tough on directors," recalls the director. "I was terrified when I gave him my first direction. Sean, can you please do that less charming?" He said, "Sure, boy." Boy was the nickname he gave me. Bay also said that the actor protected him from the Disney bosses who pressured the director because the shooting was delayed for 2 days. Connery offered to join him in a meeting with the producers. In classic Sean Connery's style, he belts out in his Scottish brogue, "This boy is doing a good job, and you're living in your Disney fucking ivory tower, and we need more fucking money." Without missing a beat, they responded, "Okay, how much?" The Rock won several awards, including Connery and Cage's Best Screen Duo at the MTV Movie Awards. The film was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Sound Effects. And what do you think of the duet of Connery and Cage? Write to us in the comments. We read them all. In 1998, Connery took part in Jeremiah Cheshik's American spy thriller The Avengers, which was an adaptation of the British TV series of the same name. Ralph Fiennes and Uma Thurman played the main roles of secret agents, and Connery got the role of the main antagonist, Sir August de Winter, a mad scientist who wants to control the world. The film was a box office failure, grossing just $55 million against its $60 million budget. It also received extremely negative reviews from critics, with some even considering it one of the worst films ever made. Having briefly stepped up from adventure films, Sean starred in the low-budget art house drama Playing by Heart, in which the actor became a partner of 64-year-old Gina Rowlands. They played a married couple who have been together for over 40 years. Outwardly, the family life of the heroes seemed happy. However, they should start telling each other the truth, and it turned out that their marriage was coming to an end.
Thank you. And we obviously succeeded. We had one person we were talking to said that they were too elated at the end of the movie, which is difficult to comprehend.
How can you be too elated?
Precisely. I think it must be an age factor.
I think there's
I'm delighted to be elated.
Sean's partner on the set said that the actor charmed her from the first second they met. "I think Sean is not to blame for the fact that his partners often turn out to be young actresses," said Rowlands. "He is completely devoid of male egoism. His appearance is to blame for everything. Sean is such a sexy man that any woman melts in his presence. He managed to age surprisingly well. Sean is sexy because he's a real man. There's nothing fake about him, and women love that." The screenwriter and film director Willard Carroll said that he was very surprised when the famous actor agreed to act with him, because the movie budget was only $6 million and Connery could have demanded much more just for his performance. "I was amazed when Sean called me himself and said that he likes the idea of showing the difficult relationships of people at the end of life. However, acting in a low-budget film, Connery set his conditions. All scenes with his participation scattered throughout the film must be shot in a short period of time, no more than 2 weeks. And also, he would not like to do more than 2 or 3 takes of each scene. Carol agreed. Connery and Gena Rowlands worked out their scenes in advance, and it took just 8 days to shoot. The director was most impressed by the absence of any external signs of Sean's star status. The actor arrived on the set without a driver, parked the car, and went to the dressing room. Occasionally, he called an assistant who helped him in rehearsals. Connery's co-stars, Jay Moore, Ryan Phillippe, Madeline Stowe, and Gillian Anderson were delighted to have the opportunity to work with the film legend. The actors mentioned that Connery rarely started the conversation first, but willingly responded to the offer to talk and told amazing stories that happened to him on the set. Madeline Stowe admits that at first she was a little afraid of meeting the star. 5 years ago, she auditioned for the film Medicine Man with his participation and was rejected. The readings were successful at the auditions for Medicine Man, and then Sean asked me to dance with him. There was a scene in the movie where the characters dance. Oh God, I knew it was over because I had very bad coordination. Of course, I stomped all of Sean's feet, and they didn't take me. When Stowe met Connery on the set of Playing by Heart, she hoped he had forgotten their ill-fated first meeting and pretended they were strangers. But Connery immediately recognized her and offered to teach her to dance in between filming. The strangest thing is that I really learned to dance with him, Stowe said. Of course, you won't send me to the ballroom dance competition, but at least I stopped stepping on my partner's feet. I think Sean can do anything. He's a genius. Gillian Anderson also spoke highly of her colleague. Sean is as energetic in real life as he is on stage. It's not just sexuality. He enters the room and it already has a different atmosphere, a different energy. Even my 4-year-old daughter, being on the set, approached him first. By the way, the biography of Gillian Anderson is also available on our channel. Go on and watch it, but only after this one. After the movie's success, Connery decided to continue alternating high-budget and low-budget films. In the same year, he acted as a theatrical producer of Yasmina Rez's play Art on Broadway. The project turned out to be extremely successful. The produced play received the Tony Award as the best play of the season. Accepting the award, Connery said that he intended to transfer the production across the ocean and restore the play in one of the theaters of the West End, but this idea was never implemented. In 1999, the crime drama Entrapment was released. This time, Sean had to play the thief Robert McDougall, a virtuoso thief of priceless works of art, whom no one manages to lure into a trap. Then the insurance company investigator Virginia Baker, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, takes up the case. The film turned out to be Bond-like in terms of scope, effectiveness, and various geography of location shooting. Entrapment was filmed in Malaysia, London, and a Scottish castle belonging to the oldest Maclean clan, whose members were happy to have a film crew visiting them, especially since Connery has hinted several times about his relationship with them since his mother's maiden name was Maclean. Initially, Entrapment was to be directed by Antoine Fuqua, who became famous for the action movie The Replacement Killers, but before the shooting began, Connery, who starred in it and also was a producer, fired Fuqua and replaced him with John Emile. The reason was simple. Fuqua saw the future film as a 100% action movie in the Bond style, with lots of races, shootouts, and technological innovations. Sean wanted to make a romantic adventure film in which the relationship of the characters would come first. John Emile managed to strike the right balance between adventure and romance. Moreover, the age difference was organically incorporated into the plot. I rarely had to argue with the directors, Sean said, but there was never such unanimity either. Emile gave Catherine and I the opportunity to turn around at full strength, for which we are very grateful to him. Connery spoke very positively about his partner Catherine Zeta-Jones, considering her talented and disciplined. The filming schedule was tight, so the actors had to work constantly, even on Saturdays. Many times the actors stayed overnight at the studio. Of course, when you work 24 hours a day, the actor recalled, you need to relieve stress somehow. Catherine and I constantly teased each other on the set. Despite the fact that Connery was a mega star, he had rather modest requests. According to the film's producer, the actor helped save about $2 million on filming, for example, by not using private planes and refusing the services of a personal driver.
It's a bank.
And
I didn't say I'd tell you any more.
The Entrapment premiere almost coincided with the elections to the Scottish Parliament, and Sean Connery made it to both events. On the threshold of his 70th birthday, he was, as before, cheerful, energetic, and ready for new adventures, both on the screen and in life. Having arrived in Edinburgh for the premiere, the actor managed to give more than 60 interviews in 2 days, in which he successfully sold both his new film and the idea of Scottish independence from English reign. Connery has long been seen as the face of the Scottish National Party, which was seeking a majority of seats in Parliament for a Scotland-wide vote on separation from the UK. The results of the elections were not in the Nationalists' favor. They conceded a lot to the Labour Party. But analysts say that without Sean Connery's support, they wouldn't have even half the votes collected. Connery's political program included the revival of Scottish cinema and the support of young directors. However, when in 1997 his compatriot Danny Boyle approached Connery with an offer to play God in the eccentric comedy A Life Less Ordinary, he refused. The actor explained this decision by the fact that he simply did not want to play God as a comedic character. Entrapment stormed theaters on its opening weekend, bringing in over $20 million in the first 3 days of release. Around the same time, Sean and Micheline decided to sell their villa in Spain and move to the Bahamas. The reason was quite banal. Due to the great demand for real estate in their area, construction began. Sean got fed up with all the noise, and the couple moved to a villa in the prestigious Lyford Cay in the Bahamas. However, the homeland did not forget about him. One of the proofs of this was the title of Sir and the rank of Knight given to him on the eve of his 70th birthday. On July 5, 2000, Connery was knighted by the Queen at an investiture ceremony at Holyrood Palace in Edinburgh. In the same year, Connery starred in Gus Van Sant's film Finding Forrester, where he played another mentor, this time of a young genius who dreamed of becoming a famous writer. The film received generally positive reviews, with some critics even calling it one of the top 10 of the year. Connery also received the Crystal Globe for outstanding artistic contribution to world cinema. In 2002, the actor starred in the American fantasy adventure film The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, directed by Stephen Norrington. The picture was shot based on the graphic novel of the same name by Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill, dedicated to the adventures of a unit. In a few days, it turned out that all the decorations were destroyed. Filming stopped altogether and resumed only a month later, already in Hungary. For the role of Quatermain, Sean received $17 million, almost fourth of the total budget, although the picture collected $180 million at the box office. The creator of the novel, Alan Moore, didn't like it at all, as did the critics whose reviews were far from favorable.
I've had women along on past exploits and found them to be, at best, a distraction.
Do I distract you?
The movie failure especially disappointed Connery. During filming, he felt that the production would not use the opportunity to act in really successful films, so the actor refused the role of Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings franchise, saying that he did not understand the script. It was reported that he was offered $30 million, along with 15% of the worldwide box office, which would have earned him $450 million. He also refused to appear as Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter film series and the Matrix trilogy. In 2005, he recorded the voiceover for the video game From Russia with Love in the Bahamas and was delighted to be approached by Electronic Arts producers to voice Bond. Channel and press the bell button to receive notifications of new videos. We'll be very grateful to you. June 8, 2006, he confirmed his retirement from the film industry. Idiots now making films in Hollywood. This is what he called the reason for his retirement. The actor believed that over time, the gulf began to grow between those who make films and those who understand. In the same year, the autobiography of the star's first wife, Diane Cilento, was published. Yes, she cited an example of their dispute in a hotel room in Spain, during which the husband punched his wife twice in the face. She recounted the incident in an interview with the Daily Mail, claiming the attack was fueled by Connery's jealousy over Cilento dancing with different men that night. "I was a bit drunk," she recalls. "Once inside our room in the darkness, I felt a blow to my face and was knocked to the floor and passed out for a few seconds. Then I was screaming. We were both shouting. I got to my feet and tried to fight back, but another blow sent me flying." Connery was forced to cancel his appearance in the Scottish Parliament in 2006 amid controversy over his alleged endorsement of violence against women. On the accusation of the ex-wife, the actor had said it was a, quote, crock of shit, and dismissed Cilento, saying, "She's a bad seed and ought simply to be ignored." The actor's ambiguous statements really happened throughout his career. In 1965, he told Playboy magazine, "I don't think there is anything particularly wrong in hitting a woman, though I don't recommend you do it in the same way you hit a man." The actor also added that a slap could be fully justified if all alternatives failed to improve the situation and there were many warnings. In 1993, he confirmed his attitude to what was said.
If you have tried everything else, and women are pretty good at this, they can't leave it alone. They want to have the last word, and you give them the last word, but they're not happy with the last word. They want to say it again and get into a really provocative situation. Then I think it's absolutely right.
To give her a good slap.
Yeah, absolutely.
However, over time, Connery's thoughts changed radically because already in a later interview for The Times, he said the following: "I don't believe that any level of abuse of women is ever justified under any circumstances. Full stop." In 2012, Connery made a brief comeback to voice the title character in the Scottish animated film Sir Billy, where he was an executive producer of the extended 80-minute version. And the actor became the narrator in a documentary film about the history and development of the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. Somehow, back in the early 2000s, the news that Sean Connery died of cancer flew all around all the newspapers. Rumors of his death were exaggerated. Connery's neighbor with a similar surname died, and journalists did not go into details and quickly prepared a sensation. Connery almost managed to attend his own funeral. He did not give a refutation and forbade his relatives to do that. He was willing to see who and how would behave in the situation, revealing true friends. Then he got fed up with it, and when the phone rang again and Micheline heard condolences, she said, "How strange. He just went out to play golf." They say that experiencing this is a good omen and a guarantee of longevity. And so it happened, because the actor lived for many more years after this incident and died in his sleep only on October 31st, 2020, at the age of 90. It happened at his home in Lyford Cay, Bahamas. His family informed the press about the actor's death. Although the family did not disclose the cause of death, his son Jason said that his father had been ill for some time. Later, Connery's wife, Micheline, admitted that in the last years of his life, the man suffered from dementia, but the official cause of death was pneumonia and respiratory failure. According to his wife, senile frailty took a toll on the actor, and his last wish was to quietly pass away while sleeping. He was not able to express himself laterally. At least he died in his sleep, and it was just so peaceful. I was with him all the time, and he just slipped away. It was what he wanted. Farewell to the actor took place behind closed doors. Only close family members were present at the ceremony. His remains were cremated and his ashes scattered in Scotland at an undisclosed location in 2022. "He was gorgeous and we had a wonderful life together," Rockburn said. "He was a model of a man. It is going to be very hard without him. I know that." Following the announcement of his death, many actors and industry figures who worked with Connery, as well as former Bond stars George Lazenby, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig, paid tribute to the film legend. Connery's old friend Michael Caine called him a great star, brilliant actor, and a wonderful friend. James Bond producers released a statement saying that Connery revolutionized the world with his gritty and witty portrayal of the sexy and charismatic secret agent. He is undoubtedly largely responsible for the success of the film series, and we shall be forever grateful to him. Oscar-winning Sir Sean Connery really became a cinema legend. He not only gave the world one of the most iconic characters, which still delights Bondiana fans, he also proved by his own example that age is a conditional concept, and even at 60, you can still be considered the sexiest man in the world. Of course, Connery had his ups and downs. Clearly, there were successful and unsuccessful roles, but despite any difficulties, he did not lose hope that the main achievements were still ahead. And even after passing away, he left behind a significant film legacy that will delight his fans for more than a dozen years. We hope we've answered all the questions you might have about our star today. We'll be grateful for your like. And don't forget that there are still many exciting stories about famous actors of the film industry on our channel. You can find little-known facts, funny incidents from the film sets, and much more by clicking on the video that appeared on the screen. You are watching the Biographer channel. See you very soon.